On this episode of Flirtations, we'll be talking with Talia of At Dating Intentionally all about the slow burn in dating. If you're a dater that tends to go fast, this one is for you. And then in Ask the Flirt Coach, we'll be talking with a listener about should they stay or should they go. Stay tuned.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the Flirt Coach and a gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, Flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, Flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
I am so excited to be talking about all things slow burn today with our very special guest, Talia at Dating Intentionally. Hello, welcome to the Flirtcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I am just so excited that you have a podcast. Like, we need more Benjamin and more flirting skills in our lives, and now we get to have them. So thank you for starting this podcast.
Oh my God. It's been a long time coming, but I'm so excited to be doing it. It's you've got a podcast too. It's not as easy just hitting record. I thought it might be, but no, there's far more to it.
But it's worth it.
It's so worth it. All right, so we're going to be talking about all things slow burn as far as like structuring the pacing in early dating, how to not rush things. I knew this was going to be one of the first episodes I wanted to bring the flirties, and when I was thinking about who to have this discussion with, it was always going to be you, Talia. So I want just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm also curious about your handle, your username at Dating Intentionally, and what that means to you.
Yes. So I started dating intentionally in my dating process, like when I was out there on the streets, on the apps, like meeting people, because I realized after talking to my single peers, my friends, that I was the only one having fun dating. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Mm-hmm. We're like in our 30s, like I was 29, whatever, late 20s, early 30s, like This is the prime time to be dating. Why is no one having fun? What's going on? Like the pandemic's kind of over at this point. It was 2021. Mm-hmm. What's going on? So I decided to start the Instagram account, which led to the podcast. And now this is like my full-time thing, just helping people have fun dating. And part of that is knowing your intentions, dating intentionally, right? Like when you know what you want and you align your actions with what you want, you're going to have a better time, but as everyone knows, dating is messy and confusing. There's a lot of emotion. So it's hard to see clearly through that. That's why I'm here. I want to help you see clearly through all the mind drama and everything you're going through.
Yes, dating with more clarity. And this is something I've learned from you is just going at it with more, approaching dating with more focus and really focusing on your needs and not settling, right? The boundaries and communication. It's just, I'm so with you. It's not always going to be easy. There's going to be challenges. There might be a heartbreak or two, but it can also be super fun. So let's get into the topic of the slow burn in dating. Just what are your initial thoughts on the slow burn, and what does that necessarily mean?
I think the slow burn is letting a connection play out without rushing it, forcing it to get to a specific milestone, whether that's like engagement or just calling them your partner, and or whatever this like label or like milestone you're looking for. It's like rushing a connection looks like trying to get to that milestone as fast as you can to have a sense of security. But a slow burn is more like giving yourself providing your own security while you are in the ambiguity of getting to know someone and figuring out what it is. And if you have a connection, that's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. As you're so much, part of dating is not just about getting to know someone else, but getting to know yourself in the context of a new connection. Like it's like comparing apples to oranges in many ways, and
right.
how you may have felt in a past relationship or going on a dates with someone previously can be completely different as you're getting to know yourself with someone brand new. And so approaching it with a new perspective, maybe a beginner's mind a little bit too, but not letting go of your intentions, your wants, your needs, your dating desires, all of that.
I mean, look, a slow burn, I think, is essential because when you are getting to know someone, if you're taking it step by step, you will you're more likely to catch the red flags, pause, think
Yes.
about it, think about if you want that next date or not, rather than just like blow through everything, rush to the, oh, we're a couple now stage of things where I know you want to be, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal, but it's like we got to take it step by step and slow it down so you actually make the right decision for yourself.
Definitely. Yeah, it's one thing. Certainly, you want to know why you're dating. If you're looking to have a serious relationship, if you're looking to move towards something like exclusivity, right? Marriage, have that long-term relationship, all good. It's awesome to know what ultimately you're looking for, but how to be in that space of ambiguity a little bit and that gray area, and also not rush things. So I'm curious how, if someone has a tendency to rush things, how can they start to slow things down a little bit?
One thing I suggest is journaling your dates. Really, like after each date, write down how you felt, how they made you feel, and there's things you notice about them, things you learned about them, and try to write without judgment. Just try to write down like the fact, like we talked about his family. Like you don't have to say like I think he kind of clammed up when he talked about his family. Like you don't have to like put your own spin
Right.
on it. Just be like, we talked about this, we talked about this, or he made me feel this, he, or she or whoever like did this.
Mhm.
And then you can reflect. So that's one way to slow it down. It's really just like being mindful. Another thing you can do, which it's very controversial, people don't like it, but like talk, like entertaining multiple connections at the same time
Yes.
can help you slow it down because it reduces scarcity mindset. When you believe that it's like I'm sure you've had this where it's like you're dating and then finally meet one person you really like, and you're like, oh my God, it's happening. I
Hmm.
finally like someone. And
Hmm.
you feel like you're never going to like anyone again, but that's
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah.
So when you're entertaining multiple connections, you're proving to yourself that there are multiple people that you could get along with, that you could connect with. So those are two ways that I found really effective for me to slow things down.
Nice. Yeah, I like that a lot. And date tracking is something I learned from you and can be so great, especially if you have the tendency to, not speaking from experience at all, no, couldn't be me, of like
Oh
calling your friend or like calling up, like for me, my mom
my God.
afterwards, and you want to just like spill the tea, right?
Please, everyone listening, do not tell your friends about your dating life. I'm sorry, but your friends they love you way too much to give you good
Yes.
advice. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know you, so I can give you like the real, we don't know our clients like that. So we can give
Uh-huh.
you the real advice, like the neutral third party advice, but
Yeah.
your friends can't do that. Like, please don't listen to
You're,
them.
you're not necessarily getting objective dating advice. You're getting, they're your hype people. They're
Yeah,
your,
they're automatically going to find things wrong with whatever's happening and like throw you off.
yeah. But doing the date tracking can be so great. So you can sit back and just reflect back on it the next day, or even as you're preparing for perhaps that second date, or if you're further into the dating process, just being like, okay, how am I feeling today with this? And all right, let me look at my tracker and see, okay, we actually had some pretty good conversation. They followed up after the date, or, ooh, actually, I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable, or maybe I wasn't feeling that spark, right? That's always a big
Hmm.
topic in dating. And so,
Yeah.
what can looking at that interest, intrigue, and just being able to sit with your own reflections, as you're getting to know someone can be so powerful.
Yeah. Another question that comes up a lot, I'm sure you get this question, is like, how do you know who is going to be a good match for you? And it's like that
Mm,
reflection is the answer because it's like when I was getting to know my fiance, who was absolutely a slow bird, like, and that was tough for me. I'm not a very patient person. So I had to really sit with that. And it's like after each date, I was like, okay, I still don't know about him. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence. What do I need to know to be more sure? And I kept asking myself that. So then on the date, I could lead conversations into these topics that I was curious about him.
yeah.
There, I'm like, okay, let's talk about his career. Like, I don't really know much about where he's going, and that
Mm,
matters to me. So I'd make sure to bring that up on a date. And then every date was like that. It wasn't like, oh, I don't know, so I guess it's a no. You have to like date someone. Like, it's okay to date someone while you're figuring out if you like them. It's
yeah.
not a waste of time. That is the whole point. Like, so,
Yeah.
and the other thing I wanted to just touch on really quick as a way to go slow is to not jump right into the bedroom with people, which again, I'm not like purity culture over here. Like, I'm a very sex positive person,
Yeah.
but it's like if you know yourself and you can look back on your past um, dating experiences and you get attached after sex,
Yeah.
maybe try something different. Maybe slow it down.
Yeah.
I believe that physical intimacy is the lowest hanging fruit of intimacy. It's easier to like have a one night stand than it is to really get to know someone and be friends with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much about if you've dated in some way, like a particular way, you've had a certain strategy, being open and willing to switch that up a little bit. And also, because I see this all the time and I get it because I used to be this dater myself. I'm sure you've seen it too, where
I've
it's
probably been this done. I've made all the mistakes too.
yeah,
Please.
but yeah, just because you hook up or you sleep with or have sex with somebody, that doesn't necessarily signal interest. And the same with texting. Like just because they're texting
Yes.
you all the time does not signify interest. And so
No.
often we can confuse these certain actions or behaviors. Well, they're texting me all the time, or oh, we hooked up on the first date and it was so wonderful. Well, those two things can exist and be true. It also doesn't mean they're interested in a relationship.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like, you could have a quote unquote great date. I think the great date is sometimes a trap. It's like, but we had a great time.
Mm,
It's like, that doesn't actually mean what you think it means.
yeah.
Yeah.
I yeah. Yeah, I agree because it's I saw this statistic recently and it was something like the number that's coming to mind is 50 hours, where it really takes about 50 hours spending time with someone one on one, face to face, in person to really get to know them. And so, yeah, I'll hear the same thing. It's, well, we've been texting for 2 weeks and we had our first date and we hung out for 4 hours. And then, maybe the conversation drops off a little bit or it starts to slow down. Well, in the context of everything, looking at sort of the bigger picture, you were texting for a couple weeks and only had one date. Like you still only
Yeah,
spent 4 hours with this person.
exactly. And yeah, it's like texting is not the way to really get to know someone. I think texting is just like, it's so
Yeah.
easy to just like be who you think they want you to be in a
Yeah.
text. Yeah, like you can be, I'm sorry, but you
Uh,
could be funnier in a text than you are in person. It's easier because you can think about it. You
yeah.
can like you can edit. I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, and you can
It's
be
tough.
available whenever you want to be available. You can really think about your responses.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can convey kind of whatever mood you may be in as well. And so it's a way I find to hold back in some ways because you can only be as forthcoming as you want to be over text.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
all
And I
right,
want to
so
say, like, oh, sorry, like with my fiance, we had like there was a month before we met in person, and we did
yeah,
FaceTime. We did video dates, like kind of like how you and I are talking right now on Zoom. We
yes.
literally would just talk for like an hour as if we were on a date, and that I think was part of the slow burn. I w-
Mm,
I'm glad we did the FaceTime and not the texting. We didn't text that much. We did 4 solid hours of this, like
nice.
over a month, and then we met in person, and I think that also helped the slow burn unfold.
I think so too. I think so
Yeah.
too. I wanted to recap a little bit ways
Yes.
to really slow down the pacing. So perhaps multi-dating, if that is a strategy that is working well for you. And sometimes I hear, well, I feel, I feel bad or I feel guilty, or maybe like that's not right, quite the strategy for me. But I also hear the opposite of that, that it works so well for managing
Mhm.
anxiety and just keeping things in perspective. So really evaluating and seeing if that's a dating strategy that could work for you. It's definitely an option to help slow down the pace a little bit, focusing more on those in-person connections, or even doing FaceTimes, Zooms, getting something face to face rather than
Where it's
only
like live
texting.
in real time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. In real time, there's
Mm.
tone, there's context, there's facial expressions, there's energy, there's body language. It's all the things you're going to be missing over texting. And then not relying solely on texting or hooking up, having sex as a way to sort of signify the significance of a connection.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think those are going to be great dating tips. What a way to kick off the conversation.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to talk a little bit. I'm really curious because I have some thoughts on this as well. And this will be specific to if you're on the dating apps or any type of online dating platform. You made a match, you're getting a new connection going, and you're looking to move it off the apps. I want to talk a little bit about the pacing and how to do that. What are some of your
Yes. So I think what has worked best for me, and I've met probably my whole life, like probably 100 people off the apps,
Mhm.
like just from my early 20s, my late 20s, just a lot. And what works best in my experience is like you do anywhere between like 10 to 20 messages between the two of you,
Yep.
max. Then all you're looking for in a messaging arena is like do we have a couple things that are in common that we could talk about that are like fun? Like, can we go back and forth about something? Can we have that tennis match conversation, right? Like of just like
Yep.
back and forth. Is it easy? And then you can be like, you know what? You seem fun to talk to. Maybe we should meet in person. Boom, easy. Definitely do not text people on the dating apps for more than like a day or two. I mean, I get that some conversations take a while because if you're
Mhm.
only checking once or twice a day, that's fine.
Yeah.
But try to get the momentum is everything.
Yes.
Like, yeah. But what do
Yeah.
you think?
I 100% agree. I'm so glad, like, yeah, we're so in alignment on this because I want to sort of dispel that just because you're on a dating app and you're messaging back and forth for 2 weeks, that somehow looks like a slow burn or a slower pacing in dating. No. At that point, you're in a Tinder relationship. You're in a hinge relationship, like a match,
Hinge
whatever,
relationship.
a bumble relationship, whatever platform you're on. No.
No,
Yeah,
no.
those 10 to 20, I certainly understand work schedules, family schedules, if you're a single parent, something like that, just overall availability. It might take you a little bit more time to move things off the apps, but certainly 10 to 20 messages back and
Yeah.
forth, which goes relatively quickly within a day or two. And then go ahead and transition things off the app.
Can I tell you what my dad
Yeah.
does? He's on the apps and he's
Yeah.
63. And he's crushing it.
Okay.
So he likes to send a message. It's like, hey, I don't text a lot, which does make sense for a 63-year-old man.
Yes.
Here's my phone number. Like he gives them his number. Like we can call me basically or text me. And
Okay.
that works. And so he says it works because like he's not really asking. It's like the ball's in their court. Like he's like, I'm giving you my number. I'm giving you my information. You can choose to trust me because I'm offering this information and I'm not being weird about it.
Mhm.
Like I'm being straightforward. And he said most people just shoot him a text and they get on the phone. Like right away. No back and forth. He just knows himself and it works. So it's like you can test different things. Like I think some people like I would be if the guy was asking me right away for coffee. I think I've done that a few times where I'm like, sure, like I don't really it's fine and it's been fine, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like you don't necessarily need a ton because dating apps are not it's not a relationship application. It's
Right.
literally just it's like I think it's the virtual equivalent of walking into a bar people have name tags with like their
Mhm.
information and you could just be
Mhm.
like, hey, want to go talk over here. Like
Yeah. That's a
that's
great way to think
it.
about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You don't know if they're going to be your husband. Like I'm always like people read into everything. It's like the information, take it with a massive grain of salt, like everything on a dating profile. You
Yeah.
can't fit your whole personality on a profile. So I think people judge way too harshly.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to just,
Give it a chance.
yeah, just give it a chance. Give it a couple messages.
Yeah. I like if there's some initial intrigue, some interest, like if you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm curious about asking this person even one question, or something caught your eye, or even there's perhaps a little bit of attraction, not only attraction, but if like the pictures are doing it for you and there's a bit of a profile, something in there to back it up, move
Yeah.
forward. What have you got to lose? Just create the
But yeah, my fiance, like he
conversation.
looked normal. Like
Yeah.
that's it. He had a job at a place I recognized, which helped. I was like, okay, I
Uh-huh.
know that company. Um, he was educated, which I liked.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that he reads books. And I just asked him what he was reading.
Perfect.
Very boring, very basic, but it worked.
That's so much what it is, just putting yourself out there. And even it's in a pretty straightforward way. Like it's always like I said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel with your dating or with
Yeah.
your flirting, especially just to get the conversation started.
Especially ladies dating men. Like if you start the conversation, you are so much more likely to get a match back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good insight. And I wanted to touch on your dad's dating
Oh yeah.
strategy.
Yeah, sure.
Because I've seen this strategy primarily from men, it seems like, where they are giving out their phone number. If it's in, hetero dating men and they're dating women, giving their phone number and allowing the woman to then decide, okay, I'm going to reach out. So I like that. And then if you feel comfortable giving out your phone number as well, or even a Google number, if there's some personal safety reasons there, something like that, a WhatsApp, something that's not going to be necessarily like, a personal phone
Just some,
number.
yeah.
Something. Because I'm such an advocate for getting off the apps quickly and transitioning to text. I want you to, if you've had this experience or with people you worked with, if they've had this experience too, because as a gay dater, this is one of three things will happen when you exchange numbers.
Okay.
The first is the conversation will mirror what was happening on the app. So you're still getting to know each other. We're moving towards that date, and we're not going back and forth forever here. It's like, okay, we're now texting. Let's go ahead and set that date. Fantastic. Or
Ideal scenario.
I mean, ideal scenario. Um, or they will right away offer an alternate, like, oh, let's trade Snap instead. Or if you do text, all of a sudden it turns sexual. All of a sudden, the first message you get is a selfie. Okay, right away, I know this person disqualified because
Yeah.
that's not why I'm dating. I'm not interested. So
Or if you want to have fun, they're game to have fun. There's nothing
Exactly
wrong with
that.
if you want to have a little fun,
at
fine,
all.
that's fine. But like, just know that you're probably not going to marry that guy.
Probably not. Yeah. That's something that can happen. Or the conversation completely drops. Like it was the person that was just about getting that notification, just about having like someone's interested in me on an app. And I've been there. I've been that dater before where it's like when you get a Tinder notification, that's because you're not serious and it's fun. And then when
I've been that dater too, 100%.
yeah.
I have like a text graveyard. I've got guys texting me from the apps. like I never respond.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud of that. Like obviously I learned from that. That wasn't my permanent state. And I grew out of that, but it does happen. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay to go through those phases.
Sure.
But yes, the ideal scenario is 100% number one, where you are trading numbers and then very quickly just being like, okay, so when do you want to meet? Like, here's my schedule. Like, I'm really craving tacos. You want to come? Like, just something that's a conversation going towards a date. And ladies, like, you can initiate that. Just because you get that ball rolling doesn't mean that you have to do all the work of planning, which I know a lot of people in my audience don't like. They're like, I don't want to plan it. I'm like, okay, well, you can still like say you want to meet and they can plan it if you want.
Yeah. Let them know when you're available and then ball right back in their court.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. I got some questions around that as I was pulling Flirtstagram, just sort of what that slow burn looks like for online dating and then how to transition that more to those in-person.
Well, it's interesting because it's like, that's the part that's supposed to be fast.
Yes,
like that's the one, no matter what you're looking for,
sure.
whether it's like casual dating, hooking up long-term, like that, just getting off the apps quickly, no matter what you're doing is important. Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing we're looking for is just the constant back and forth, or you do move it to text and it's just
you don't have time for that.
No. Oh my God. No time whatsoever. Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
We chatted a moment about this before we started. I wanna talk about next. How do you know if it's truly a slow burn or if they're just not interested? They're leading you on, stringing you along kind of thing. What's your take?
So I think interest will look like interest at any pace, but it's like you're looking for someone who is consistent, right? It's like if they start to be unpredictable, that's how you know they're not interested. But if they're not showering you with like affection, but they're still taking you out on dates, that's the sweet spot, right? Like they're not overdoing it, but they're showing that if they're making time for you, that's like the number one sign of interest. Like no guy is really going to make time for a person he's not interested in. Like that's, and I think hopefully ladies, you're doing the same thing, but like, I'm pretty sure with men, really like what I know about men, it's like, they're going to make time for the people they care about and everyone else is kind of whatever. So if they're taking you on dates, that is a great sign. If they're not making time for you, they're not interested. Yeah. And some people like, they're especially men who are lean more avoidantly attached. Like I've noticed, like they like the idea of dating, like they want to make connections. Like avoidant attached people still, of course, crave connections and want it, but they're prioritizing usually their career or something else over it. So you will come second, and that's kind of a sign of like maybe they're interested, but they might not have the capacity for dating right now. Like, very true. Yeah, and you need both. You do. So yeah. What do you think?
I'm so glad you mentioned that because the slow burn is not absent consistency. The slow burn is not absent intention and interest. All of these things are still present. It just may mean some things that you anticipate happening more quickly, perhaps having sex or moving towards one of those big milestones like exclusivity. And we're going to talk about that upcoming here. It's like all of those things are still present and they still happen. But they just may develop at a little bit of a slower pace as you're getting to just truly focus on the connection.
And I think if you're dating intentionally for a relationship, and if you are seeing someone consistently for 3 months and they're still not comfortable calling you their partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a huge sign that it's not the right connection, or there's something off. That's something to be looked at. That's not a slow burn anymore. That's a
Right.
hesitation. Like
Yeah.
there's something going on. So it's like these things still happen. Like you're still hitting these milestones that are really wonderful and feel amazing, but they're not going to be crammed into the first 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
they're not going to take a year. Like I don't like setting rules around pacing. Like by this time, you should do this.
I know.
But
Mhm.
it's like if you're spending 1 to 2 dates a week with someone, and by 3 months, it's like at least 12 to 15 dates. Like it's just like you probably are past the 50-hour mark at that point. You know, like that you said earlier. So I don't know. You have to watch out for it. You need to set your own boundary of like when you will walk away from someone who's hesitating.
Definitely. Yeah. Because I can speak, from the perspective of a guy, it's like if a guy is really in it, right, that true interest, intention is there, the I'm busy guy all of a sudden has time, right? The career guy all of a sudden is I can skip a happy hour. Or guess what? That project I was working on, it's actually not due till next week. All of a sudden there is time. So there is going to be that true interest and intention, because as guys, like we have this true, like we want to provide. Like we're not trying to make you feel chaotic and make you feel unsafe. And this goes for guys dating anyone, he's, she's, or theys. Like we are not trying to put you in this place of mixed signals, of inconsistency. Like we're doing that because we're not serious.
You're not sure.
Like,
Yeah, you're not
we're not
sure. You're protecting yourself. You're scared. It's all these valid things, but just because like the person you're talking to is going through that does not mean you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
yeah.
So I want to talk about on this topic, two things that can come up and kind of skew what the slow burn can look like, perhaps. And that is love bombing and future faking.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that's the other side, right? It's like, okay,
Yes.
too slow, not showing interest. And the other side is like too much interest early on. And
Yes.
for those of you who don't know, like love bombing is sometimes, I did a whole podcast episode on this topic, and it's like sometimes it's intentional, and then you're dealing with like a master manipulator.
Yes.
But I think most of the time it's unintentional. I don't think most people are master manipulators. I think
agree.
most people are just really excited to get the attention from someone and will do whatever they can, which looks like love bombing, to get that interest. So that's like if like we were dating, like I'd figure out what you were into, and I'd be like, oh yeah, and like I'd wear like your favorite band t-shirt, and I'd like, oh, be like, I got these 2 tickets, and I'd like everything like right up front, like really early on, and you'd be like, wow, this person's amazing, and like you would be like so into me, and then once I feel you're into me, I leave, because that was the goal.
Right.
Right. It's the chase is over, the fun's over, or you become a real person with flaws, not the imaginary like version of you in my head, and I'm out.
Yep.
So signs of love bombing are going to be like, it just feels like a lot at once. And I think too, an inexperienced dater might feel magical. Like, oh my God, it's happening. It's finally happening. Someone's really into me. You got to control the pace. And that's the thing. You can control the pace. Like you don't have to go on that weekend trip after the second date with that person if they invite you. You know, you don't have to meet their parents on the 5th date if they're doing that. Like,
Yeah, some of these, definite love bombing tactics, or it's like sort of the classic, you've been on one date and then you get like, I love you, right? Like it's, no, you don't. Like, no.
Yeah, you have to recognize that it does take time to make that real connection. Like you said, we go back to the 50-hour thing. Like you can't rush that or fake it. So also future faking, which you mentioned, is when you start talking about plans in the future that could happen and I used to do this because I was so excited when I met someone. I'm a very future oriented person. So I talk about the future a lot, and I had to catch myself to stop. It's like, oh, we could go here. We could go on this hike. We can go on this trip. And if they're doing that really early, I get the sense that they're just trying to plug a person into their life. They're not trying to get to know you. They're trying to like plug you in without really getting to know you.
Definitely that. And it's also creating a little bit of that illusion of safety too. Like I'm going to be here in a few months, in a year from now. I'm giving you that kind of long-term promise, even though we've only been on 1 or 2 dates kind of thing. Like
it's so
in many ways.
But I wanted to touch on one thing though, really quick.
Go for it.
Because my fiance, like on our 4th in-person date, said he wanted me to be his girlfriend. Like he was just, I was like, are you, I was kind of like, you just moved here. Like, don't you want to sample Seattle more? Like,
Yeah.
don't you want to date around? Like, you literally just got here and I'm the only person you're talking to. He's like, no, I'm good. Like, I want you to be my girlfriend. I was like, okay. And he didn't rush that though. I wasn't ready. I'm like, I just said, okay. Like, I was just kind of like, cool. Like, thanks for letting me know.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't like, he gave me space. He wasn't
Yeah.
worried that I was stringing him along. Like he could tell that I was still showing up and trying to get to know him and figure out if I wanted the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that wasn't love bombing. That was like, because love bombing would have been more like if I wasn't sure at that moment, he would get really upset and like
Yes.
freak
Yes.
out, and
Mhm.
that's the insecurity that you want to avoid in dating. He
Yeah.
was secure. He was like, okay, like revealed my cards and I'm going to wait for her to reveal hers. And,
Mhm.
and it happened. It did happen eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. And you had that month of virtual dates as
Right.
well. And so there's
Exactly.
been some time, but I'm so glad you talked about how, like you saying, like giving you the space, right? As well.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he didn't, he was showing his maturity and just his level of
Yeah.
emotional availability and capacity and overall readiness is like the
And he
key
didn't
thing.
run when I didn't say yes right away.
Right.
Like he didn't like, oh, like she's not into me. Like I was still showing interest though. And that's your
Yes.
part as a slow burn dater, right? If you are trying to go for a slow burn, you do have to make sure you are showing interest
Mhm.
while you are also setting boundaries. Because
Yes.
some people do take boundaries as rejection, unfortunately, and you can't control that.
Yeah.
But you can still text them, you can initiate dates, you can make time for them and show that you're interested.
Definitely. Yeah. It's that co-creation, that mutual
Yes.
choosing, right? It's like we're both showing up for one another. It's not like this tit for tat of they didn't text me back for 2 hours. So now I'm gonna do the same thing, or I'm gonna wait even 3 hours. Like
Oh
I'm
my
gonna
God,
double it. I'm gonna
no.
wait four.
Stop.
I know,
No.
I know. It's but we've all been
This
there. That's
this
Lord
isn't high
knows.
school.
That's so how I used to date way after high school. Because like
I'm
we
glad you've
aren't
changed.
same. Oh my God. So much less anxiety for sure. It's just we aren't taught this. Like we are not
No.
really taught or modeled how to date, how to communicate, how any of this works. We are just so much thrown into it in many ways and just figuring it out. And
Mhm.
it's hard. So like, yeah,
It's
giving
really hard.
yourself that permission and that time to there are going to be mistakes, but seeing if you can reframe those as learning lessons and then just getting really curious about your own dating behavior and strategy and seeing if you've been the love bomber or really gravitated towards someone that has love bombed you. Same with the
Yeah.
future faking, just starting to develop that self-awareness around what is very common in dating and seeing if maybe the slow burn is a better dating approach.
I think it is.
I do too. I do too. All right. I want to ask a couple more
Yeah.
questions. This one also came from good old Flirtstagram, and that is as you are, all right, so we're truly in that slow burn style of dating here. How can you figure out compatibility with someone? What are some things that you should be looking for? We've got interest, intention, some of those things we've talked about, but alignment, compatibility. I'm yeah, curious to hear your thoughts on that a little bit.
Yeah. So compatibility is not finding someone who's exactly the same as you. Like,
Mm,
even though I'm sure like you're awesome listener, but like you don't want to date yourself. Like you want to date someone. It's like you want to find someone who is complementary to you. So you build like something better than what you would build alone. You know what I mean? It's like,
mm,
yeah, it's like you're
yes.
both coming in with your own experiences, values, priorities, and you're building something really great together. So compatibility to me is just like someone it's easy to be around them. Like you don't have to expend a lot of energy. Like have you ever been, I always think of this one date with a guy I had after, like we met at an art class.
Hmm.
And after that date, I took a nap and I never nap because I was so exhausted from like he was not easy to be around. You
Right.
know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
So that is like, but with my fiance, it's like I can hang out with them all day and I like want to hang out with them more the next day. And the next day it's like, I don't have to do anything to like hang out with them. So they're easy to be around. You have aligned values. So like, this is just really important. Like you can date someone, let's just say religion's important to you. It's an easy
Hmm.
one.
Hmm.
You can, like, I'm Jewish, but I could date someone who is super Christian, but it would be a really hard relationship, right? We could do it. We could make it work, but it would be a huge strain on our stress and our minds, and the
Yeah.
emotions and just like, it would automatically inject more conflict into the relationship. So you want to find someone who aligns because you'll have less conflict in the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are a couple of things that I look for in compatibility.
Yeah. I agree too. And I want to touch on a little bit more taking a nap. But also, like what comes to mind talking about compatibility is this overall feeling of comfort. Like it's that feeling where your nervous system is not in that state of just always being on. And if you've been a dater, and this is certainly true for me, where you've come at dating and approach dating with a lot of anxiety, and when you start to just open yourself up and perhaps feel more comfortable and more relaxed and allow connections to develop over time without rushing, without
Mhm.
forcing, it's gonna feel odd if it's not something you're.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. With my fiance, like, I did not feel like I had to impress him in any way,
Mm,
and that felt
mm,
weird.
yeah, right.
Like I just, even though he has a PhD, so I don't. So I do feel like sometimes in the beginning I was like, oh my God, am I smart enough for him? But like, obviously that was my own insecurity and projection. Like he
Yeah,
does not care. So, but yeah, like I didn't feel like I had to impress him. And I was like, oh, like this is I didn't care if it panned out. And I know it sounds bad and it's like, doesn't sound like a great place to start for my connection, but I just like in the beginning, I wasn't clinging to the outcome.
yeah,
I was like, okay,
that's
I'm
it.
getting to know this person and I like him, but also like could take it or leave it.
Yeah, it's that overall
Yeah.
detachment from the
Yeah.
performance of it all, the expectations, and
Yeah.
just being you and exploring a new connection and allowing it to develop based on interest and compatibility and that intrigue and getting to know one another and being more objective and like kind of sitting with your own thoughts and feelings about it. Yeah, so much of
Yeah.
what makes the slow burn a slow burn.
But I love
Um,
that compatibility also is that you can be compatible with a lot of people. Like
yes,
compatibility isn't that limiting. Like
that's
I
true.
think a lot of our own priorities in a part like if you say you want someone who's above 6 feet or you say like that's more limiting than like finding someone compatible. I think we could be compatible with a lot of people. I think friendship compatibility is a thing too, not just
Sure,
romantic. Like it's a very wide range.
I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I want to ask you one more question here for the
Okay.
podcast. It's one I get. I'm sure you get this one all the time too. It's all right. So the question is, what do you do with the person you're dating? And you're primarily going to be texting probably a lot, not as much of in-person dates happening. And they're like, oh well, I just want to take things slow, like how we've talked about it a little bit, but that person that is always sort of giving you that, oh, I don't want to rush, right? I just want to take things slow. How can you use real discernment and see, is this is do I also want to take it at that same pace, or you know what, this person is just not for me?
I would always approach with curiosity.
Yeah,
What do you mean by that? What does that mean to you? Like,
perfect.
and I think, look, I would much rather you have this conversation over a phone call, FaceTime, or in person, not over
Yes.
text, because tones get really screwed up in these conversations over text. Everything feels a lot more serious. Just this can be a playful conversation.
Yeah.
Like you could be like, okay, so like, are you more like a turtle or are you a sloth? Like you could like be playful,
Right.
like when you say slow, like what,
Can
are
we,
you like
yeah, let's
are
talk
you like a
specifics.
trolley? Or are you like, like what's going on? Like how slow are you talking here? And then
Yeah.
I think also I think once I'm projecting like maybe a little bit, but I think when someone says that, they are protecting themselves against something and maybe they've been hurt in the past. So they're like
Hmm.
trying to do it differently. So there's compassion there for that. So, okay, like this person's kind of maybe overdoing a boundary. Like, cause a lot of times when someone's like, I want to take it slow, it's like, well, what? I don't yeah, like
Yeah.
that's not that tall of an order,
Right.
but you have to get on the same page about what slow means. And I think, but yeah, I think it's okay to be open. But if someone's like, I want to date someone for 6 years before we decide to get married, and that doesn't align with your timeline, then yeah, probably not the best match.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. I think your answer was just so good. It's about being curious in many ways. Like if this is someone you're truly interested in, you're vibing with, the connection feels good, being like, okay, well, let's have a conversation about pacing. When you say you need to take things slow, why? Like I'm just
Hmm.
curious and learning more about it. And it may unfold into a very beautiful conversation where you're expressing vulnerabilities and even insecurities and getting to know someone on a deeper level. So I think curiosity can be a great way to deepen a connection and can also reveal the person, right, that is just future faking you in some ways, kind of hyping you up with a response that sort of gives them a pass.
And I just want to say one tip, like if you are the person who's feels the need to say that, I want to challenge you to not say it, but do it. Like you don't like if let's just say someone's like blowing up your phone, you
Yeah.
don't need to respond to every text. You can show them what your desired pace is by literally just doing your desired pace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you can like you can just if someone invites you to their home after like the second date and you don't want to, you just say no. You don't have to be like, oh, I want to take it slow. You just be like, no, I'm good. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to say it necessarily, which sounds, I know, like counterintuitive dating advice, like where it's like, oh, communicate everything, but like you can communicate with your actions too.
Definitely. Yeah. I always like to say that words can signify interest and actions signify intention. So like we're really looking for that beautiful blend of both. Yeah. And yeah, you can really show people what your intentions are and where you're at. All right. I want to wrap this up. I said we
Yeah.
would talk briefly just about a couple of big milestones in early dating, that discussion of exclusivity and defining the relationship. So when you're deciding, look, it's just going to be just us, we're deciding monogamous, perhaps open, and what that looks like, getting off the apps and then moving towards that, okay, we're partners, boyfriend, girlfriends, whatever sort of label or status we're assigning. I think we've really discussed, had a great conversation about the slow burn in that process and getting us there. But wanted to just briefly talk about kind of those two big milestones.
Yeah. I mean, look, when you get to that point with someone, it's going to feel scary. No matter how much work
Yeah.
you've done on yourself, no matter how much you've dated, how many relationships you've been in, it is like literally, it feels like making a leap. I personally was scared as hell when I got into, or when I like was like, okay, we are a couple. I'm done with the dating apps now. Like we are it.
Yeah.
I cried. Like I was like, oh my God, like this is so scary. So it's going to expect that and don't let that be a sign that it's not the right move.
Right.
Right. So that's the first thing. Also, like in terms of timing, I mean, I again don't like to put rules around things, but I think at least 12 dates is a good. That could happen in 2 months or 3 months. It's probably not going to happen in 1 month. That's a lot. And you know, I personally think exclusivity is a short step towards being a couple and being official, whatever you want to call it. Exclusivity is literally just like, okay, we're gonna like focus on this connection and not use dating apps, but I'm not going to introduce you as my boyfriend. Yeah.
Right.
But it's supposed to be short. It's not supposed to be like a year. You know?
Exactly.
It's supposed to be like a couple weeks, maybe, max. And then, you're like, okay, I'm ready. I feel ready to call you my boyfriend. Or sometimes you could just introduce someone like, oh yeah, this is my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, we're doing that now. Cool. It doesn't have to be some big thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your take on that and your insight there, because there's no sort of hard and fast. I agree with you on the general timelines here, kind of around 12 dates, 3 months to decide we're at least not interested in dating other people. Plenty of time. And then moving forward, or 6-ish it's kind of open from there. But when you start to, all right, what are we going to call each other? Are we making it official kind of thing, quote unquote? That pacing, I think, is going to look different from couple to couple and from connection to connection. But just, yeah, like we're not
my
dating.
fiance she just kept joking about it until I was like, oh, fine.
Yeah. Like what we're not
ready.
doing is, talking to someone for a year and then, oh, what are we? And like, you think you're dating, they're like, no, we're not. Right. So just being able to have those conversations sooner rather than later. And it's okay to certainly feel the fear. I'm single, but dating. And I anticipate, there's going to be some butterflies and some heart racing moments as you're moving towards those conversations.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you've been dating for a while. It's going to feel weird. Like, oh, I'm just talking to one person now.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Like, this is my flirt outlet now. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
I got my flirt now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Talia, this has been such a wonderful conversation. Please, I'll link it all in the show notes, but where can people find you, work with you, all of that?
Yes, you are more than welcome to slide into my DMs at dating.intentionally, as a little dot between the two words. But yeah, my podcast, Dating Intentionally, where I give a lot of no nonsense advice like this, and I'd love to have you there. And Benjamin was on the podcast, so you can find his episode.
Heck yeah, we did a whole episode
it's all
on
about flirting. So, yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Talia, thank you so much. We'll continue the conversation on Swell. I have one more question for Talia, but that is a wrap for the interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up next on Ask the Flirt Coach, we'll be talking with Jess, who recently made a match on the apps, been talking with someone new for about a month, but something feels off. Maybe you felt this way before. I know I have. Now let's meet Jess. Hey Jess, welcome to Flirtations. How you doing today?
Hey, great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you for being a part of this episode. And I want to just open it up. Please tell the flirties and myself a little bit more about what's on your mind today.
Sure. So I'm on the apps and matched with this guy mid-April. We hit it off immediately, talked about all of the things, had great conversations on the app, on the phone, through texting. Went on one date, and basically after that got all caught up in the feels, and we both said, like, okay, we're gonna get off the apps and just talk to each other exclusively. Normally that's not how I do things. Normally I date multiple people at the same time and like get to know them at a slower pace, but he just seemed, I don't know, it just worked at the moment. So and things have slowly just gotten weirder. I don't know how to really describe it, but part of me feels like maybe I am settling in areas. He's really safe for my nervous system, in the sense that, like, he's very communicative. He pursues me. He makes plans. He tells me what he wants. And so I don't have that, like, anxiety, which I'm used to in dating, of, you know, that unknown feeling. So that's something that's a little bit different for me. So I guess my question is, I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do you know when you're dating someone and it's safe for your nervous system and good for you, versus, like, if you're really just kind of settling and not really being with someone who you want to be with. The more I'm finding out about him, the more I'm learning, like, a lot of our values aren't super aligned. And so that's been kind of a question too.
Okay. Yeah, let's thank you for that, giving us a little bit more information. And let's talk through this scenario for sure. So matched in mid-April. So all in all, talking for about a month, have moved toward exclusivity already, dating just one another off the apps. So hitting that milestone of exclusivity pretty quickly, which can be a great thing. Sounds like communication has overall been good. I'm curious to hear about the dates. How often are you going on dates, and who's planning those?
So our first date was out to dinner. He planned that.
Okay.
And then since then, I've only just kind of gone over to his house to hang out. We haven't gone, like, out.
Okay.
So it's kind of feeling more like a convenience factor type thing, you know, like,
Yeah. Is he the one initiating, like, you know, let's have an at-home date, come over, watch a movie or cook dinner or something like that?
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like, our kids' schedules, we're both single parents, are a little opposite. So finding that time to plan dates makes it difficult. So we just try and, like, squeeze in when we can. And honestly, it's been like, hey, I have a couple hours, I can come over and hang out for a little bit type of thing.
Yeah.
So there hasn't really been, like, a second official date followed up of actually going and doing anything.
Okay. And how is the overall communication? Is it mostly texting? Mostly texting?
Yeah, I'd say 95% is texting. He reaches out though and, like, texts throughout the day, which I like, but I also have a feeling like I'm using that as kind of like to get my dopamine hit, or, like, that validation of I'm still, you know, being thought about, I'm still important. And there's not really, like, there's no learning about each other. It's more just like, how's your day? What are you up to? What are your kids doing? You know, how's work type of thing. I'm really, like, growth oriented, and I like, spiritual growth is really important to me. And he's not on the same page on that, which is okay. But I also, like, want a partner to help me grow, and then I can help them grow as well.
Yeah, very important.
So it's difficult to find things to talk about, right? Like, because we don't have that in common. And like the last time I went over there to his house, we just like watched an episode of a TV show, and it doesn't really feel exciting,
Right. Not really
especially this
growing.
early in.
Yeah, not exactly having a stimulating, like, let's grow together, find each
No.
other out more, learn more about each other kind of
Right.
conversation.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about this feeling of safety, and sort of what that feels like to you. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to this too. Like, if you're used to sort of the unpredictability, the unknown of dating, which there's always that element to it, and then you feel the opposite. But in your words, just what that feels
Mm-hmm.
like in this connection.
The feeling of feeling
Yeah.
safety with him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like I'm never waiting for that text. I'm never wondering
Mm.
like when he's gonna text me next. It's like
Okay.
he reads my text and he responds. Um, and it's not like I go hours or days without hearing from him.
Right.
And that calms my anxiety a lot, because when I'm in dating someone who doesn't do that, then I have like a lot of anxiety built up, and then I overthink things, and it just becomes a big problem.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that completely. So, is this somebody you, all right, so when you say there's kind of a misalignment around values, growth
Mhm.
mindset being one, what are maybe some others that come to mind, or that you sort of figured out thus far?
That we're not aligned on.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one too is like health. I really like to work out and be active and do things. And he's told me he's lucky if he works out like 1 to 2 days a week.
Okay.
And like, okay, progress, not perfection. Um, but like in the back of my mind, it just like goes into a whole other category of like, well, are you taking care of yourself? Your
Yeah.
health is super important type of thing. I want someone who has an active lifestyle and that we can like do active things together. And sitting on the couch and watching a movie just really isn't.
It's not really cutting it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And so like I feel like deep down I know that this isn't what I need, but I feel kind of stuck because I've already like said, hey, yeah, we're exclusively talking, dating, whatever you want to call it, even though it's
Hmm.
only been a month. I
Hmm.
don't know how to now say, hey, thanks, but I'm not interested anymore, because I feel terrible. He's a really great guy.
Yeah.
He has a lot of good things that I'm looking for, but I also know what I am looking for.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I yeah, I think this is just I'm really encouraged by just the way you're phrasing this and the overall self-awareness here too, because I think deep down your intuition is saying, right, something's
Yeah.
not quite right, especially when the first date was, really positive, moved very
Mhm.
quickly to exclusivity, and now all the dates have been at home. That
Mhm.
conversation just it's not really going anywhere, and it doesn't really seem
Yeah.
like he is intentionally trying to take you out again to move it forward.
Right.
So,
Right.
to potentially, yeah, move forward onto another connection, I think you could phrase it just like you did.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, it's about clarity and brevity, because that
Yeah.
communicates confidence rather than offering someone perhaps a justification, a reason, an
Sure.
excuse. It's just, look, we're not. I don't think we're wanting the same things from dating, and then making yourself
Mhm.
available for what may come next. How
Yeah.
do you? Yeah, how is that? How do you feel about that?
That actually feels like really good, just kind of talking it out with you and hearing it out loud. Like,
Hmm.
I, I'm trying to date with an abundance mindset of there is an
Yes.
abundance of beautiful, amazing
Yes.
people out there. And I'm not
Yes.
like just dating this one person. And then if it ends, I'm never going to find anyone else again.
Yes.
Like trying to change that mindset into abundance it's been hard because,
Yeah.
the apps are like, but
Yeah.
this one connection, like if it's meant to be, we'll match again at some point in my life. And if not, I will meet someone else. There's an abundance of great people out there. So
Yeah.
it's going to keep going with that.
That's so true. That's coming at it with this mindset of abundance of
Mm-hmm.
really that there's so many that there are a lot of quality matches, and it's like
Yeah.
when you get past that first date, you get to know someone, you're texting, they're giving you that consistency,
Mm-hmm.
seemingly interested, and then a connection just sort of stalls. It's like how right
Right.
do I keep going? Do I keep pushing? Do I keep trying?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes right? Our intuition, our gut feeling is like, ugh, maybe,
Ugh,
maybe not.
something's just not there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and absent really planning dates and looking to
Mm-hmm.
take you out, right? It's ultimately the texting can become somewhat of a trap, right? Because it conveys
Yeah.
that interest when true interest is based on growing
Growing.
together. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it also, like, texting can lead to like that false sense of intimacy and
Oh
connection.
yeah.
I've
Yeah.
only talked to him maybe 2 or 3 times on the phone,
Mm,
and everything else has been, yeah, through texting.
through
So,
texting.
hmm.
Yeah. Well, you've got my full support if,
Oh,
you're
thank you.
feeling ready, to move on. And it's something truly, if being that it's only been, about a month, this could
Hmm.
very simply be a text, considering that most of your communication has
True.
been over text so far. If that would sort of take a little bit of pressure off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the time, guys, and this goes for everyone, like they're going to be like, in some ways it may sting him a little bit, but also now
Hmm.
he gets to then put himself out there to,
Oh,
date someone else
to
as well.
find someone who he connects with, and
Yeah,
ultimately that's what we're all trying to do. So
exactly. Exactly.
awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being part of the podcast, the Flirtcast today. Is there
Yeah.
anything else I can help you with?
I don't think so. You're just
Okay.
amazing. Thank you so much for all that you put out into the world. It's so great.
I'm so happy to do it and very excited for this Flirtcast. Thanks for being part of the show today.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my goodness, the first ever episode of the Flirtations Flirtcast. That was it, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. For more, head on over to Swell. There's also Flirtstagram and Flirt Talk, where we continue the conversation, where I post about all things flirting, dating, and confidence. And if you enjoyed this episode, which of course you did, please share it with a friend, as well as subscribe and maybe leave a rating. All right, y'all. Thanks so much. See you next week. New episodes dropping every Monday. Don't forget to flirt.